Okay, so tonight we are continuing on the topic of Tmimut, of just being simple. Okay, and this is, we said that this is something that only Rabbi Nachman talks about, that this is being a very basic thing in being a Jew. That if you want to be a good Jew, then you need to be simple. There's something that only Rabbi Nachman talks about. Even though, like we mentioned, that it really is something very clear in the Torah, that the Pasuk says, there's a mitzvah, tamim tiyeh im Hashem Elokecha, that you should be simple with Hashem. You should be just wholehearted, just like trusting. In the context, we said the context of tamim tiyeh im Hashem Elokecha is not to be superstitious, is not to try to figure out your horoscope and try to just do the right thing and trust that it'll work out. And like don't think you need to, because really the desire to not be simple, the desire to overthink things really comes from a desire for control. So when it says tamim tiyeh im Hashem Elokecha, so really it's saying that just trust God and thereby live a simple life, as opposed to not trusting God and thinking that you can outsmart the system, because you can't outsmart the system. It's not going to work. You're going to end up just causing yourself a lot of misery. So, also we know that Yaakov Avinu was called Yaakov Avinu. He was called Ish Tam Yoshev Ohalim. That the Torah praises him as being a simple person. Rabbi Nachman actually has a Torah where he talks about the four sons and the Leil Seder, that the Chacham, the Rasha, the Tam, and the Sheni Yodei Elisha. And he says that the Tam is Yaakov. That Yitzchak is the Chacham, and Esav is the Rasha, Yaakov is the Tam, and Yishmael is the Eni Yodei Elisha. It says that he comes to the Seder because he does tshuva at the end of his life, but Yaakov is greater than Yitzchak. Yaakov is greater than Yitzchak. So being the Tam is greater than being the Chacham, because the Chacham, he's smart, but he thinks a little bit too much, and really it would be better if he would be simple like Yaakov, and that's the Tam. Okay, so I want to try to figure out what does this mean in practical terms. How are we going to bring simplicity into our lives? So Rabbi Nachman himself talks about this in numerous places. Number one, like just to think of ourselves as simple Jews. Okay, simple. What does it mean to think of ourselves as simple Jew as opposed to being complicated Jews? So one thing that he talks about is that he talks about this in Sichos Haran, talks about this in the Likutei Moharan, that he has a lot of admiration for the simple Jews that just like say Tehillim a lot. Okay, these Moroccan Saftot, they're like always like lighting a candle, like. So Rabbi Nachman is really in awe of these ladies, of these men, and just to say Tehillim, it's a funny thing. The secular world, we're talking about how we have to get the secular world to stop hating us. So there's actually I spoke to you about this organization that I used to volunteer in, that would bring together Charedim and Chilonim. So one of the things that they would sometimes do is to learn Gemara. Like if it was like an intelligent group, like people like a group like learning to be lawyers or something like that. So we would sometimes learn Gemara with them. The point of learning Gemara with them would be to show them how deep Jewish wisdom is. Why? Because apparently, I've verified this, that apparently part of the reason why the secular world looks so horribly at the yeshiva world, the boys are learning yeshiva. They look at them as subhumans. They look at them as parasites. They look at them as just people that just like losers. So part of the reason is because they actually are of the belief that, you know what yeshiva boys are doing all day? They're just reading Tehillim. That's what they're doing. They're just reading Tehillim, and instead of doing something with their lives, they're just reading Tehillim. So this organization, to show them what we're actually doing, that now we're actually trying to become wise, we're actually trying to understand what justice is and to understand how to think properly about everything in life. So, which is obviously true, but Rabbi Nachman is saying, but if we would have just been saying Tehillim all day, that would have been so awesome. That would have been really, really amazing. Just to be able to say Tehillim the whole day, it's so holy. Just and like there's other things like that he mentions, like for example, singing Zmiras on Shabbos. Singing Zmiras on Shabbos. That he talks about the fact that when he was that he was until he got sick, until he got the tuberculosis that he died from. So he would always spend a long time singing Zmiras on Shabbos, and in some in some mentalities, so like that's not a good use of your time. Like you should in some places. Actually, like when I was in yeshiva, I remember that there's always like a tension between like when we were having like when it was just the boys, when it was just the kids themselves, like not like we're just making our own meal. So there's always a tension, like there was the people that just wanted to just get it over with and get back to learning, and there's also the people that just wanted to get it over with and get to sleep. But there was the people that they didn't see the value of the meal. They just wanted to just do the mitzvah and eat something and like just eat the children to just get out in 15 minutes, and then there's the people that they wanted to say Divrei Torah, they wanted to sing Zmiras, and people they wanted to like have a Shabbos experience, and they're like the other people were saying like Shabbos experience, you're psychotic, like just you think Hashem wants you to have an experience, you're like that's for girls, yeah. So there's this like there is this conflict of like we're like that's for the little people, that's for the losers. That if you can't do lofty things, so then you can do the simple things. Like good, I agree that if you're illiterate, then you should say Tehillim. That's better than sleeping. Okay, but me, I can learn Gemara, I can think about, I can meditate, I can do yichudim, I can do holy things. Like so, like why should I waste my time with these simple things? And so you have a situation that like it's really ridiculous. I remember being on the side of the kid that you come to, that like for many years I must admit that like I was in this mentality for many years. So when I was in yeshiva, you could have a situation that I get invited to some family for Shabbos, and they asked me, could you tell me something? Do you have something on the parsha? And I say, no, not really. I didn't really learn the parsha this week. And I said, okay, could you tell me something that you learned? And I'd rather not. Could somebody else say it? I don't think you'll like get it. I don't think you'll appreciate it. And you have the situation that I was literally learning all day, every day, for the entire week, and then when it comes like just like to a Shabbos table, like which is basically saying like, okay, like what do you have to say for your money? Like what do you like? You actually learned 70 hours this week, so like, do you have anything to show for your effort? And if anything like that you can share for the common folk, okay? A friend of mine, so he has he made a term that whenever you learn, whenever you get up from chavrusa, so you should make sure that there's something to take away from your learning that's Instagrammable. Okay, something that you could just like that. Basically, what do we learn? It's like something that you can just say in one phrase that can be an Instagram post. Okay, and that's that. If you don't have that, then you didn't really learn anything. Okay, to take something which is so if you're so this is the difference. And when you're doing that, when you're making whatever you learned for the past hour, when you're making that Instagrammable, so what are you really doing? You're actually simplifying it. Okay, and so the yeshiva boy, what's his problem? Everything's complicated. Everything's complicated. So to learn the parsha, that's too simple for him. So he doesn't even bother, and he's just stuck in his lamdas. He's stuck in his machlekes, and he's stuck in the k'tzais and the sifas and the Reb Chaim, and like he can't leave this place of complications. Okay, so it's beneath his dignity to go down and try to even to simplify the complicated things. That's beneath his dignity, because that's like making it less fancy, less special. So this is a problem that intelligent people deal with. That that intelligent people we have this tendency to want things to be complicated, to want things to be that if it's something that you can appreciate, so then it's beneath my dignity. That's the issue. That's the struggle that the Chacham is dealing with, and to which Rabbi Nachman is saying that no, I really think it's so beautiful to just be able to say to Helen, to just sing Zmiris and just be close to Hashem. It's like that's the highest. We spoke about on Sunday that we're talking about the custom not to learn on Christmas Eve. So we shared a Torah from the first Belzer Rebbe, that the Belzer Rebbe says that where does the custom come from not to learn on Christmas Eve? Because the Gemara says that when you leave your friends, you can only leave your friend through a halacha. So the Baal Shem Tov explains that it's not really talking about your friends, it's really talking about Hashem. So it really means that when you're in an extreme level of deveykut, when you're extreme level of connection to God, so the only excuse to leave that level of connection is only if you're going to learn. Because when you're learning, then you can't be on the level of deveykut because you have to use your brain. You have to think logically. So it's okay to leave the level of deveykut in order to learn. Okay? Because Torah is also very holy. But on Christmas Eve, because there's this extreme impurity, because there's extreme tumah, so we need the highest artillery. That's why it's forbidden to learn, because you have to stay on the high level of deveykut. So Rabbi Nachman is saying that when you're just singing Zmiris, so you could actually be in a higher level than the person who's learning, because you're in the level of deveykut, which is even greater than learning. Yeah? There's Shlomo will tell a story about this guy that was really, really into Shabbos, and he was really Litvish, and his Rebbe told him that if you I see you're really into Shabbos, if you really want to know what Shabbos is, so you should go to Sands. In Sands, they really, really koch Shabbos. They really, really know how to go to the moon on Shabbos. So if you really want to experience Shabbos, you should go to Sands. So he went to Sands, and he was a big maspent. He was learning, he was learning all day, every day, and for him, Shabbos was even more learning. He would learn the entire night, and so he came to Sands, and so the davening was amazing, and then the Suda was amazing, and then they went. Then they are going to the Medrash. So he figures he's going to follow them. So he says, okay, I guess that sounds good. We're going to learn on Shabbos. And so he goes and he sees that everybody is sitting in the Beis Medrash, and the Gemaras are in front of them, and the Gemaras are closed, and they're closing their eyes, and they're swaying back and forth, and they're going Shabbos, Kodesh, Shabbos. They're just in a trance, and they go, and they're sitting there for 2 hours with the Gemaras closed, and just in their trance, in their meditation, and he's going out of his mind. This is this is an insane asylum. This is not a yeshiva. This is not a chassidus. This is these people need to they forgot to take their meds. So he's really, really frustrated. Why did my Rebbe think that I'm going to appreciate this? So he's really, really doesn't know what to make of this. So on the way out, he says he knows that Chaim Sanzer is the Gadol Ador, so he doesn't want to ignore him. So he says, so he wants to say goodbye to him before he goes back, and so Chaim Sanzer. So he says to him, how do you like Shabbos and Sands? So he said, to be honest, it was really weird for me. I don't think I'm going to come back. So he says, let me tell you something. There's one person, so that he wants to see the king, and he goes into the palace, and gets to the first light. It gets to the first room, and there's amazing music, and there's amazing pictures, and then goes to the second room, and then there's even greater music, and then there's food, and it goes to the third room, and it goes to this, there's even amazing people, and he starts talking to all the people, and the people that, and the further that he gets, the more amazed he gets, and there's people that they go to the palace, and they're mamish amazed by all the amazing things and all the light in the palace. But there's another kind of person that he goes and he says, this is not what I came for. I came to see the king. I'm not going to let any of this distract me. So let me explain to you. The entire week, so we come to see the king, and we come and we want to get close, and we see the light, and we see the music, and we see the art, and this is the Torah. This is the Torah. But on Shabbos we say that that's not enough anymore. That today, I only want to see the king himself. And that is what you just experienced. That all of my chassidim. So on Shabbos, they go to the highest level, that it's not enough to be learning, that they want to see the king himself. And that's what they were doing. So this is the deveykut. My point is that the deveykut is actually a higher plane than learning Torah. Okay? And that's what the sophisticated, smart, intelligent people, so that's what they don't get. That they don't get that somebody who's simpler than them, that somebody that's illiterate could actually be closer to God than they are. That's something that they can't wrap their head around it. They're like, come on, like, I learned in yeshiva for 15 years. You're actually telling me that this Moroccan Safta is holier than me? No, it can't. And like, this is something that it's just beneath their dignity to accept this, that the simple avodas, the simple ways of serving God can actually be so holy. This is, like we've said many times, this is what the Baal Shem Tov, this greatest innovation. That all the peasants, that they were illiterate and they couldn't learn a Gemara. So until the Baal Shem Tov came around, so they were the outcasts, and they were saying, yeah, Judaism isn't really for you. And then the Baal Shem Tov came and he said, no, they can be even holier than the big rabbis. Okay? Once upon a time, the Rambam was also like a rationalist, and when he writes when he writes about like different levels of understanding God, so he writes that, like, he talks about, like, for example, like yirat ha'onesh, like a person that's serving God from fear of being punished. So he says it's a level. It's not a very good level. It's not a very high level. It's good. It's good for simple people, like women and children. So like girls, yeah, women, like they're subhumans. They can manage with the Baal Shem Tov would never talk like that. The Baal Shem Tov would never think that a woman can't understand God as much as a man because they're not learning Gemara. It's a different part of your brain. It's a different part of your soul. And the deveykut it actually does not need the cerebral part of your brain, and it actually gets to the same place from a more direct source. So this is why Rabbi Nachman thought that these simple avodas, that just like saying Tehillim and Zmiris, and just to serve Hashem in a simple way, is actually very, very high, very, very, very amazing. And so like we said, our brains, our sophisticated brains, they don't like doing these simple things because they think that it's like beneath their dignity and it doesn't really get you anywhere. And so what actually happens? So because it actually boomerangs. It actually it doesn't. You lose out at the end because let's go back to this yeshiva boy, okay? They asked him. I mean, it's part of the problem. The system is also at fault over here. But they asked the yeshiva boy, could you tell me something that you learned the whole week? And so he says, no, I can't. I just learned a lot of Ksais and Sivas. I nothing that I learned is at all relevant to anybody who's not in my class. So like he thinks that if it's not complicated, if it's not very esoteric, so then it's not real. It's not, and so what do we tell him? We tell him like you actually just ruined the Shabbos table. It's like your Shabbos meal was a really lousy Shabbos meal. You got a D plus for your Shabbos meal. And like the simple people, they got an A plus, and you got a D plus. And you should realize that you messed up. You should, at some point, there should be a wake up call. This is just some reality check that you're doing something wrong. You're actually doing something wrong. And I think people realize this in another context as well, that there's things like there's days that we don't, that in school, so you have a lot of assemblies, and when there's you have special Yom Iyuns, sometimes for a fast day you'll have a Yom Iyun, and for, let's say, maybe Yom Ha'atzmaut you'll have a Yom Iyun. For Yom HaShoah you can have a Yom Iyun. And so when you're in school, so you have these ceremonies, okay? People there's not many schools they take the school to Yad Vashem for Yom HaShoah or something like that. You have ceremonies to connotate, to note that there's a special day, right? And as we're doing it, we all think that this is so dumb, this is so boring, this is such a waste of time, right? And then we grow up, and then we stop doing these things, and then what do we notice? That hey, just Yom HaShoah passed, and it did not register at all. The day just went over my head. I didn't have a Yom HaShoah this year, so this year I'm actually not connected to the Holocaust. Once met a girl in Neve that asked her what's your how do you describe your Jewish identity? So her Jewish identity was lighting Hanukkah candles and Holocaust awareness. That was it. That was it. Meaning not marrying Jewish. I mean, not even only marrying Jewish. She was not against. I tried to convince her, but she didn't see a problem of intermarrying, but her Jewish identity was that Hanukkah candles and Holocaust awareness. So this person, when we get out of school, so no, we no longer have Holocaust assemblies. So now what happens? So now it's not part of our reality anymore, right? So at the time we thought it was dumb. At the time we thought it was a waste of time. But then we realized in hindsight that these stupid, simple ceremonies, they actually bring you closer to something very deep. Okay? So this is really the point. This is really what Rabbi Nachman is getting at, that through these simple avodas, so your cerebral mind tells you that you're wasting your time, but the truth is that it's only these simple things that get you closer to the real thing. Okay, that's the first element that Rabbi Nachman talks about being a simple Jew. Okay, about how simplicity is supposed to be in our lives, that we shouldn't have this mindset that's too simple for me. That's I'm too intelligent to do something so simple. That doing simple avodas is actually very beautiful. Okay, and certainly not to look down at people that do simple avodas. And there's another thing that Rabbi Nachman talks about as well, which is extremely, extremely relevant, extremely prevalent, and that is that when Rabbi Nachman talks about being a simple Jew, one of the things that he's referring to is that complicated Jews, they make everything in Judaism complicated. Okay, somebody made a parody of the halachas of Thanksgiving, if you how much do you have to eat? You have to have a kazayas, you have to have a kibbutz, you have to have it before shkia, after shkia, have to and so it was a parody of the fact that everything in Judaism is so complicated that if everything, there's always a way to do it and a way not to do it, and it's very we get into the nitty gritty, and so it's true that there are halachas about everything, but but some people like to overdo it, and some people like to they like to make a big deal out of the chumras, and Rabbi Nachman speaks about this very strongly. He writes about this in Likutei Moharan Tinyana, in the second part, Mem Daled. So he writes about these people that says in the Torah, v'chai b'hem, that you should live Torah, you should experience Torah, you should fulfill the Torah and live through it. V'chai b'hem, you should. But these people, it says v'chai b'hem v'lo sheyamus b'hem. Not Torah shouldn't kill you. Torah shouldn't be something that's causing you to just kill yourself, to choke yourself. And this is referring to people that their Judaism chokes them. Their Judaism, it's like it's so complicated that they you can imagine a person that says, according to some opinions, so when you eat matzah, so you should actually have 5 entire matzahs, and you should swallow all 5 in one gulp, and you should finish chewing and swallowing in 30 seconds. So you can imagine coming to the Seder, and he's just like, and he's like no, and he's just driving himself crazy. Absolutely. So that's the Torah is supposed to be a way of life. It's not a way of death. And I'm sorry to tell you that your Judaism is a way of death. Okay, and that's how a person can get himself. If everything's going to be so complicated, so I'll tell you there was he speaks specifically on about Pesach because he says it's relevant to everything. It's relevant for everything, but it's especially relevant to Pesach. That because Pesach, for some reason, people have a tendency to part of the reason why the people have a tendency towards chumras on Pesach is because the women are in charge. But there's a story. There's a story about there was a student in the Volozhin yeshiva. Okay, in the Volozhin, so there was 2 Rosh yeshivas. One was the Netziv, Rav Neftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, who was the Rebbe of Rav Kook, and he was you can see pictures. In the pictures, he's always smiling. He's always like a jolly man, and he was a little bit like chassidic. He wasn't mamish chassidic, but he was like a chassidic mentality. And his Rosh yeshiva was called the Beis Halevi, Rav Yosef Dov Halevi Soloveitchik, and he was like, his son was Rav Chaim Soloveitchik, who was the father of Brisk. So in Brisk, they're known for their chumras. In Brisk, they're known that everything is complicated. That everything is that they keep Shabbos until 2 hours after sunset, and everything is very, very stressed. Everything is if you ever saw a brisker say Shema, so every word they're concerned that they didn't say it right. So they say every word 3 times because they're like they have also with they have the thing with the ayin. The ayin, Ashkenazim don't have a tradition of how to say ayin differently than an aleph. We don't pronounce we just ayin doesn't have a sound. Ayin is not a consonant in the way we talk. Okay, the Yemenites, they do. It's like it's a guttural sound. So I've heard these people, these briskers, that they're concerned that really the Yemenites are right, and so you're not really saying Shema properly unless you do your ayin like a Yemenite. So they'll say, and it's hard because we didn't grow up like this. So Shema. Shema, 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 and deliberately we're doing it 10 times because each time they don't get it right because they don't know how to do it. So but they're convinced that no, I want to do it really, really right. So that's brisk. If you ever sometimes in the Abba Minim Shuk, they're we have brisker lulavim. Brisker lulavim. What does it mean? Brisker lulavim? It means that it's so closed that even if under a microscope, under a microscope. You can't even see. It's not even though microscopic things don't matter, but like they're just maybe like what are they going to say? They're going to say, yeah, but maybe really you could see it without the microscope. It's just that I have bad vision, so I want to look with the microscope to make sure that it's really, really, really close. And like so, the brisket lulav, they charge an extra 500 shekel because it's closed even under a microscope. So this is just that's the intro. So that's what briskers are all about. Okay, if you go out with a boy and he says he's a brisker, so that's something to or a girl. I don't know. Are there brisker girls? I think brisker girls are actually pretty normal. I mean, I think it's only a boy thing. Like I know brisker girls. Like I know they don't fast on the minor fasts. Like they're pretty chilled. So I think this is a more brisker boy thing. So that's the Beis Halevi was like the father of brisker. Okay. So anyway, so the story goes that there was an American who was studying the Bosnian yeshiva, and so he didn't have parents to go home to. So he was the honored guest of the Rosh Yeshiva, of the Rosh Yeshiva, the two Rosh Yeshivas for Pesach. So they both invited him. They both invited him to the house for the seder. So outside of Israel, so you have two seders. So one night he was going to the Beis Halevi, one night he was going to the Nitziv. And so he writes in the memoirs after Yantif. So he writes that how it was such a day and night experience. So the Beis Halevi. So first of all, like the whole night was just full of stress. Like I remember I used to a lot of confessions today that when I was younger, so I was very stressed at Pesach about that the matzahs should be whole and not broken, because there's a mitzvah to have two whole matzahs, not broken matzahs. So I was always just stressed about this, because to move them very, very carefully, and like if one of the kids touched or even like came within like 10 feet of the matzahs, and anyway, so in later years, so I figured out a good way to overcome this problem, that because I don't not eat my mishim matzahs. So what I do is take for the top and the bottom one, have mishim matzahs. Mishim matzahs are strong; they don't break easily. And for the middle one, that one anyway you break. So so I'll take a broken one for the middle one, and then like an almost whole one, but like not exactly. Then you break it. So anyway, it doesn't have to be full. So nowadays but anyway, so the Beis Halevi who's just completely stressed. He was completely stressed, and so for the matzah, when he got to matzah, so it was. So first of all, in Brisk, so they're very, very scared that even because matzah, if you don't do it properly, it becomes chametz. So like even if you do all the chumras in the world, but maybe it's actually chametz. So you can't not eat matzah. So what they do is in Brisk they actually only eat the minimal amount of matzah, because they're scared that it's true we did everything crazy, but maybe still it's really chametz. Okay, so the Beis Halevi, so when it came to matzahs, so he was like, so his matzahs they were all burned, because he was scared that if he didn't burn it, then maybe there's a tiny bit of dough inside that actually didn't get baked, and it's going to turn chametz. So everything was burned, and he was like eating the minimal amount, and then he was doing with all of his chumras, and then when it came to myrrh, so like he ate one spoon and like. Maybe that wasn't good enough. Maybe they were like take another spoon. Everything was stress. Everything was stress. And like when he eat the meal, and then he's always looking at the watch. Oh, it's almost chatzais. It's almost we have to finish. No meat. That's it. I forgot. And so everything was stress. And so then they finished the seder. Sighed. Oh, if only I would even fulfill one mitzvah tonight properly. I wish like if only Hashem. I completely. I'm sure that was just the worst seder I ever had. I wish something would. I hope that something was okay. Like so that's how it was seder. Then he goes the next night. He goes to Nitziv, and Siv is everything is good. Everything is jolly, and he's coming out when he finishes. and we finish this, and they're like feeling like kings, and they're going, and at the end of the Seder, he's like, "Whoa, Hashem, so many mitzvahs I did tonight. This is so exciting. This is so amazing." And so he's talking about how that through the desire for chumras, so the Beis Levi totally killed his Seder, and through the simplicity of the Netziv, he was able to elevate the Seder. Okay, so chumras, this, like in general, a desire for chumras, so it can actually bring a person to a very, very dark place. He writes in the Likutei Moharan, he writes how that if you're into chumras, so first of all, it makes you crazy. That's referring to just like overthinking everything and just becoming just a stress ball. It's just like you can't talk to him. And number two, it brings you to what he calls marash chayra. Marash chayra, it's an ancient term. It's a reference to depression. That if you're into chumras, it's very easy to always be depressed, because if you're into chumras, then if you're always thinking, hey, but I didn't do it according to that opinion, so then basically you always messed up. Meaning, like you can always find some opinion that according to that opinion you didn't do it right. Okay, so if you're going to always be into chumras, so then you can always be able to look at what you didn't do right. And so number one is going to drive you crazy. Number two is going to get you depressed. Okay, and so he would mamish. Rabbi Nachman would make fun of this. He would quote that the Gemara says. The Gemara says that that Hashem didn't give the Torah to angels. So if he gave the Torah to human beings, so he knew that we're human, and so what's he want from us? He wants us to do it in a human way. He doesn't want, and he knew who he was talking about. He knew who he was talking to. He knows us. So he's not asking us to do something which is superhuman. He's asking us to do something which is within our range, within our capabilities. So just do the best you can, and that's perfect. Okay, so this is really there's two kinds of mentalities. There's the mentality. There's the people that are into chumras, the people who are not into chumras. So I want to speak about two different ways of thinking, two different problems that can bring a person to chumras, and that Rabbi Nachman is telling us not to be like that. Okay, number one, a person, like one of the things about halacha, about psak, like a rabbi who answers halacha questions, so he's called a pesach. Okay, lifsok means to cut. Okay, why does lifsok mean to cut? Why in halacha do you need to cut? Because there's always going to be different ways to look at a situation, and there's always going to be some level of doubt that I'm pretty sure that it's okay. There is a slight possibility that it's not okay, and my question is, how am I going to deal with that slight possibility? Okay, so when we make decisions, we always, in every decision, like there's always going to be that it makes sense to do this. It might be the wrong thing to do, but it makes more sense to do this. The question is that do we have the ability to cut, to be a pesach? Do we have the ability to be able to make a decision and live with it and say that, okay, I'm not going to overthink this anymore. I'm no longer going to say, but what if? And that was, I had the time that I was trying to think, is this a good decision or not? And I decided that the cons were smaller than the pros, so therefore I'm going with this. Okay, and so this is, if you ever read that there's a book by Miriam Adahan called Appreciating People. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's basically a very easy, user-friendly presentation of something called Briggs-Myers. Okay, Briggs-Myers is a famous different kinds of personality test kind of thing. So it's great. Like once you read it, like then you walk around and like, oh, I know you. You're a whatever. I like, so it's actually very fascinating. Like the idea she calls it appreciating people, including yourself. Meaning the idea being that that like until now, so like you didn't get along with people because you wanted to go to the party and your friend wanted to just stay home, and you wanted to go play ball and your friend wanted to go to a class, and like you felt like, what's wrong with you? Don't you know that what I want to do is fun, what you want to do is boring? And like, so like, but now that you know the personality types, then you want to say, no, it's not. It's no better and worse. It's not. It's just people are different. And it's like, and the including yourself means that like, I always thought that I was a loser. What's wrong with me that all my friends want to do this? And like, now I appreciate myself. That now I understand that I'm okay. So her last. So there's four. I don't even know if I remember them. There's four categories. One is introvert, extrovert. One is are you more emotional or more cerebral? One is are you more thinking or more doing? I think that's the third one. And the fourth one, which I want to speak about, is what she calls perceiving, what they call perceiving or judging. Perceiving or judging means that judging is the cut. That this is the ability to make decisions. Okay. Perceiving is that to take everything in. That I don't know if she writes about this, or somebody else writes about this, that this is a big difference between guys and girls. The guys are more perceiving. Guys like options, and girls like something real, right? There was this funny article that there was a guy who was writing about a speed dating event in Jerusalem. So he was not married, so he went on the speed dating event to write about it. Okay, so he writes about how one of his dates was that he got to the date and he says, "Well, this is so cool. It's like 8 dates for the price of 1." And she goes, "Really? Happens to be I hate it. For me, it's like an eighth of a date 8 times." And like so that's exactly these two perceptions. That the guys like options. So if I met 8 girls, got 8 numbers, so then like I have options. It's not like I'm king of the world. And like the girl, she doesn't want options. She wants a relationship. So that's why like in general, so guys take longer to decide. Guys take longer to commit than girls. The girls are ready because they're more because in general girls are more J and guys are more P in this Briggs-Myers. So let's get back to our chumrah maniacs. Okay, so the first thing that I think brings a person to be a chumrah maniac is that, but what if this opinion is really right, and according to that opinion, like I didn't do it right, and so if you're going to think like that, if you're always going to be, if you never wanted to decide, whereas the psika, the pasuk, the J, is the ability to make a decision and say, okay, I made my decision, and I'm not thinking about it anymore. I made my decision, and I'm going with it. And don't tell me, but what about the Ravid? And no, the Ravid, that's not part of my decision. That I decided already that I don't care about the Ravid. So just shut up about this Ravid, okay? And like that, and I'm not going to live my life but maybe that's the right opinion, and like this is the accepted halacha, so that's fine, okay? So this is the first thing I believe that brings people to be chumrah maniacs is the inability to make decisions at all. Mm-hmm. That there's like any possibility in the world is going to confuse them. And they're lacking the ability to say, okay, that I'm not going to be perfect. I'm not going to find favor. I'm not going to be doing right according to everybody. I have to just make my decisions and live by them. Okay, that's the first thing. Which I think is a very important thing. Just in general, in life, we need to learn to make decisions and stick by them. Okay, and realize that even if there is truth to the other opinions, but I don't have to care. Like I have to do what makes sense. I have to do what makes sense and be able to say like that's not part of my reality right now. So I'm not going to get concerned about that. Okay, that's the first point that I believe is necessary. Is necessary to have a normal life, the ability to make decisions, the ability to be decisive. Okay. However, there's the second point about chumras, which I think is even more critical. it's more specific to Judaism, and it's more specific to Avodas Hashem than the first point. The first point is more of just like a life skill to be able to make decisions. But the second point, I think, is a mistake, is a confusion that people can have about what Hashem wants from us. Okay, and I think that there's people that really believe that Hashem has a certain reality that He expects from us, and if we don't do that reality, then we are held accountable. And so, what's the alternative? What if it's not reality? So what does Hashem want from us? So, what I believe, what Rabbi Nachman is telling us, that actually Hashem expects from us, is that there's actually nothing absolute, there's nothing real that Hashem actually is demanding from us. What He demands from us is to follow the rules. Okay? If you followed the rules, then you did exactly what Hashem wanted you to do. Okay? And even if you, that, like, let's say that I brought it to the rabbi, and there was some question about if my mezuzah is kosher, and the rabbi says that it's kosher. And let's say that if I ask Hashem, is this letter kosher? So Hashem actually says that it's not kosher. So then I'm screwed, because the rabbi told me that it's kosher, and it's actually not, because Hashem is actual, right? So I lived my entire life, my tefillin were puzzles, so I never put on tefillin. So like I'm going to burn in hell because I never put on tefillin, right? So there's an amazing Torah that it says that Hashem actually paskins the way that the rabbis of the generation paskin, meaning that there is no such thing as an absolute objective truth that we have to live up to. That the truth that we need to live up to is the truth of following the rules. So if, according to the rule book, according to all the tools that the rabbi has when he's making decisions, if according to these rules, so this is kosher, so then that becomes the objective truth. Okay, it's mind-boggling that there is no like the real tefillin, the real mezuzah, the real matzah, like if you're doing what the rules told you to do, so that's precisely what Hashem wanted you to do. Okay, there's interesting, like the Chazon Ish would talk about this in different contexts. It's relevant to a lot of things. It's a person that doesn't have this mentality could actually. I'll tell you something. I once met this boy that he didn't want to be religious, and so part of his argument why he didn't think he needs to be religious is because the Jews were a Semitic tribe. They come from the Middle East, right? So where does all our white Jews come from? Where do the white Jews come from? They must. That's just weird, right? We should be dark. So where do the white Jews come from? So I'm Ashkenazi. So I don't. My family. I think that Ashkenazi Jews aren't really Jews, because it doesn't make sense. Because how come we're not dark? So it must be that we were just, I don't know, kidnapped or something like that. And so I'm probably not Jewish anyway, so why should I be shomer negeh, right? So I don't, it's an interesting question, where do white Jews come from? But the Chazon Ish had this idea that do you believe that God would allow us to just completely mess up? Do you believe that God would allow us to just totally go off? Like, let's say, we have a certain way of keeping kosher. We have a certain way of writing tefillin. We have a certain way of eating matzah, of having arba minim. So let's say that at some point there was some Canaanist that convinced the world that really a lulav is really something else. Okay, and from then on, everybody's taking this fake lulav, and and then you discover, based on your archaeological findings, that 2,000 years ago they were actually taking a different kind of lulav. So you're going to go to the rabbi and say, Rabbi, you'll never believe it. It's a big mistake. All of the lulavs that you've been taking, and your rabbi's been taking, your rabbi's been taking, and your great grandfather's, it's all wrong. It's all wrong. I have the truth. So, what would you respond to somebody like that? So the Chazon Ish said that, do you really think that that God would allow the Jewish people? We're the only people doing Hashem's will. We're the only people following the Torah. Do you really think that Hashem would allow us to just completely go off? He would allow. He's completely in control to make this Canaanist succeed or not succeed, right? So do you really think he would allow this Canaanist to allow his beloved children to be doing everything wrong for the rest of history? That doesn't make any sense. Hashem is in control of history. Hashem is in control of what happens. So Hashem is going to direct things to the place that He wants them to get. Okay? So it cannot be that everybody thinks, the entire Jewish world thinks that this is the way we're supposed to do a mitzvah, and really Hashem is laughing at us. Oh, you're doing like that Canaanist. He beat me. That's ridiculous. It's really absurd. Okay? He said a similar interesting thing about they found manuscripts of certain Rishonim that had been lost for 1,000 years, and so the Mishnah Berurah, for example, would take these commentaries and it would be relevant in his halachic discussions. And so the Chazon Ish said that from the fact that Hashem made it that these manuscripts weren't found, that's because He didn't want them to become part of the tradition. It's you think we messed up by having these manuscripts lost. The reason why they were lost is because Hashem caused them to be lost. So it's really, everything is good. Everything is okay. You're not, now that you found out something that God dug up, so now we don't have to say that, oh no, we've been doing everything wrong for 2,000 years. No. Hashem wanted it to be hidden. Hashem wanted you not to see it because He actually wanted you to do the opposite. Okay? So this understanding that there is no objective truth, that Hashem wants us simply to follow the rules. And Hashem is not laughing at us, oh, you didn't do exactly what I had in mind. What He had in mind is precisely that we should follow the rules. And we should do what we understand, because He's the one controlling what we understand. And so this is a huge game changer. This is a huge mentality shift in how we look at what it means to follow mitzvahs, what it means to do Ratzon Hashem, what it means to fulfill halacha. That it's not that there's a real master that we have to live up to, but rather we have to do the best that we can do. And so if you know that, I used to have these crazy mind games that I would play with myself. There's in the winter, so you're supposed to say V'tein talma talivracha, right? Okay, so. If you didn't say V'tein talma talivracha, so you have to repeat Shemona Esrei. Okay, and so it says, what if you're not sure? So it says, if you're not sure, so then we say for the first 30 days, we assume you did it wrong, and then after 30 days, we assume you did it right. Okay, so but what if you're not sure? If you're not sure. Because I have some kind of recollection, but was that yesterday? Or was that just now? Or maybe I'm making it up. And I would sometimes sit there for minutes and just ponder, am I really not sure? Or is that memory is this a real memory or is it a fake memory? And I was so scared because if I'm not supposed to go back and I go back, that's a bracha levatala. You know how severe it is to say a bracha levatala? To say a blessing in vain? That's a horrible avera. You're doing it so many times. Every 19 brachas levatala. Oh, it's you got, and so what do? maybe I'm not sure, but maybe I am sure. So, and I would just torture myself. Because I thought that Hashem is looking down and he says, Kastin, I know you said it. Why? Why are you repeating Shema Esrei, you Russia? Do you know how dare you use my name in vain? And then when I got older, I realized that Hashem is the one who gave me this Shulchan Aruch. And he said, if you're not sure, so you go back. So what do I think Hashem is going to do to me when I go up to heaven and he says, oh, it says, I see over here you went back. Why did you go back? Oh, because I wasn't sure. Ah, okay, right, yeah, good. You weren't sure, so you go back. Why are you making things so complicated? You're making things complicated because you think that there's some objective truth, that I actually said it, so you're a Russia by going back. No, you're just supposed to follow the rules. If the rules say that if you're not sure, you go back, so I wasn't sure, so I went back. That's simple. Okay, and this is just a way to just really make life very easy. That whenever you're not sure, so you ask a question, you ask the halacha, you ask the rabbi, and whatever he says, that's what you do, and then you don't have to think anymore, because you're doing exactly. Once the rabbi says that it's mutter, so then that it's mutter. There is no, but maybe. No, Hashem doesn't want you to think about what maybe. He just wants you to follow the rules, and that's it. So this is really a way of having an anxiety-free life. This is really of making Judaism much simpler and much happier. And like he says at the beginning, this is v'chai b'hem. This is to make it full of life, and not a dead, not a choking, not a cookie cutter, constraining Judaism. That's everything is I'm scared to move. There's a story. The story that I don't know if it's a true story, but the idea is true. That there was one guy. That there was the Baal Shem Tov. He wanted to know who's going to be my neighbor, who's going to be my neighbor in Gan Eden, who's going to be my neighbor in Gehenna. So Hashem shows him that this is going to be your neighbor in Gan Eden. And he sees this guy that he's not religious, and he just he seems like a very simple person, but the only thing is that on Shabbos he really makes a big party, and he doesn't know how to keep Shabbos, so he makes a party where he makes a dance party and he has his tray for food, but he's committed. His father told him that Shabbos you have to celebrate it like you've never made, so he makes the biggest party that the country has seen every single week, and he's the biggest Shabbos yet. And the Baal Shem Tov was surprised. He's this is Gan Eden, this guy is a big Russia, but even though he's not following any halachas, but because he's so into Shabbos, so then he says, okay, now I want to see who's my partner in Gehenna. So he sees this guy that he's super religious, and so he doesn't move, he doesn't get out of his seat the whole Shabbos, because he's scared that if he gets out of his seat, he might accidentally step on an ant. So if you step on an ant, then you're killing on Shabbos. So he's always scared that he's going to step on an ant. So that's why he doesn't move on Shabbos. And so that is the perfect that's an extreme example of that a person killing himself for chumras. That he just ruined his life because he's concerned about things that he's not supposed to be concerned about. So that's why he's just killing himself. So this is.
I have a quick question about that story. I read that story recently, and the Baal Shem Tov was about to say something to the guy who throws the party. Say something like, "Oh, but I can tell you all this halacha and stuff," but then he bit his lip to not say anything. That was really interesting because it was better off he did that one thing.
Yeah, I've heard that version also, and I'm not sure if it makes sense. That's why I'm not sure about the whole story. Okay. I'm more saying it over for the idea than the actual details of the halacha. What?
Yeah, sorry, but it was more this idea of having to follow every for me
Of course, you have to follow rules.
Yeah,
of course, you have to follow rules. The point, you have to follow every rule. You have to follow every rule, but you don't have to. You don't have to follow more than the rules. You don't have to be the Torah tells you how to be normal, and once you're normal, then if something wrong happens after you did what you're supposed to do, that's not on you. Okay, so just let go. Just like, it's okay. You don't have to live a perfect life. You just have to follow the rules, and the rules are given to be normal. The rules are given to have a healthy, happy life. And if something goes wrong, even though you follow the rules, that's not your problem. Okay, so I bless us all that we should be able to be a little bit simple. Okay, I think next week we're going to have a last class to finish the series on simplicity, and more in the spirit of Rabbi Nachman. And B'ezrat Hashem, we should have happy, easygoing lives. B'ezrat Hashem.